This is Trophy Dark, the Plantation. I want to begin by having all of us introduce ourselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you'd like for us to know about you. I'll start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. They is also fine. And I am the publisher of the Trophy role-playing game, the game we're about to play. And I'm also the creator of a couple of games of my own, The Between and Brindlewood Bay. And I'm super excited to run this incursion tonight. Let's go over to James.
Yeah, my name is James. I go by Shore Online gamer tag. I love running a lot of different gaming systems and have kind of come from Dungeon World. I learned about all of these great games, and I'm really excited to play Trophy tonight.
And what are your pronouns, James?
He, him.
Thank you. And Jay.
I'm Jay. I'm sometimes go by Smago on social media. I am, he, him is my pronouns, and I am a co-creator of the Mystic Punks tabletop role-playing game.
Fabulous, thank you. And Mike.
My name is Mike. My pronouns are he, him. I've been playing tabletop role-playing games for a very long time. I just figured that this is, I started playing in August of 1981, so this is my 40th year playing tabletop games. I've been playing, I did a lot of trad, but I got into indie games in 2015. Dungeon World was my gateway. And yeah, I stumbled into Trophy when I found the Gauntlet a few years ago, and I'm really looking forward. I love Trophy. I've run it a ton of times. This is the first time I've ever actually played Trophy Dark.
Awesome, awesome. Mike, you might pull your mic just a tiny bit away from, just a little bit, just because there's some air feedback.
A little too feedback, okay. Cool.
That's better, that's better.
Awesome.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and do CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. I like to do this before I run any game, just so that we can establish some basic expectations about what we're going to be doing this week and next week. And so I'll do that now. The concept of Trophy Dark is a fantasy horror game with an emphasis on the horror. It is about treasure hunters going into a place that does not want them there. It's usually a forest. That's not the case in this particular incursion, but it's often a forest. And the treasure hunters are trying to reach the heart of this location in order to find the most fabulous treasure. They all have a drive that's kind of motivating them to do this. And the interesting thing about Trophy, what makes it Trophy Dark, is that it's a game that embraces what we call in Trophy HQ, the play to lose ethos, which means your characters are probably going to be very changed, very possibly dead by the end of it. And our goal as players is to make sure that we give them the best send-off that we can, that they have a great, great story. Your characters will always try to stay alive and grab everything they can and do what they can, and you should play them that way. But eventually the dice are going to turn on them, and it's going to be a free fall. And at that point, as a player, you want to embrace that and just try to show their descent in the most interesting way. This particular incursion is called The Plantation. It's by Nicholas Masick. It is, of all the official Trophy Dark incursions, it is far and away the most grotesque and graphically violent, so be mindful of that. It deals with themes of like economic predation, of starvation, of class stratification. It has lots of big heavy themes. It's also just really fucking gross, so we have that to look forward to. But I don't want to say any more than that. Okay, the next part of CATS is called aim. Here we'll talk about aim at several different levels. Our aim for today is to create characters, and then we will play through the first 2 rings of the 5-ring incursion. And then next week, we will wrap up with rings 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll do an epilogue as well. Our aim, like I said earlier, as players, is to tell a great story, and it's a collaborative story. And our characters' aims are to grab all the treasure and survive, but they're not going to, but that's what they want to do. And so that's aim. Let's talk about tone. Trophy Dark is, as you might imagine, dark. It embraces a horror vibe. It has a lot of the trappings of a dungeon crawl, but it's actually really more of a horror game, and it's a horror story game. And it there's going to be room for levity as far as like managing the tone goes. Like that's important, but we should always try to like kind of go back to dark. I think the game always wants to be kind of in this dark, brooding place. In terms of subject matter, the explicit subject matter in this particular incursion, the ones that we're told about, are body horror, cannibalism, graphic violence, harm to animals, and starvation. We are going to have safety tools on the table. We'll have 3 safety tools on the table. The first is the open door policy. You can leave for any reason. You don't even have to tell us the reason. You can just go if you need to. The second safety tool is the X card. The X card is, in this context of the video call, basically, if something happens in the game or the story that you find to be uncomfortable in an unfun way, or it just sort of just doesn't sit well with you for some reason, you can type X card into the chat or say it out loud, and we will pause the game and figure out what we need to take out of the story. I'll always ask what, but I will never ask why. The other safety tool we'll be using is lines and veils. Lines are things that we are not going to have in the game at all, and veils are things that we are okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them or see them on screen. Now, I will tell you that for this particular incursion, it's going to be really, really hard, next to impossible, to have body horror, cannibalism, graphic violence, harm to animals, or starvation behind a line. We can veil some of that, but it's going to be really hard to put those things behind a line because that's what the incursion's about. Having said that, though, if you feel really strongly about something, we can discuss it. But I'm going to say my lines and veils now, and then on the first break, if you all would just tell me your lines and veils in the chat, or you can direct chat to me or just chat to the group. It's up to you. Or if you want to go to, oh, this doesn't have a safety tab. Never mind. This one never got one. Yeah, just let me know on the break, and I'll make sure to convey it to the group. But my first line is going to be sexual violence. I don't want any sexual violence in the story, so we're not going to do it. And as far as veils go, I don't think it'll come up, but I would prefer to not role play torture. I'm okay with torture being a thing, but I don't want to like talk about the torture. So with all that said, that's cats. Let's go ahead and make characters. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording because I will not subject watchers of the video to us making characters. So let's pause that. Characters are done. We're going to introduce them now. When I call on you, let us know your character's name, their occupation, their background, their drive, what skills they have, and what rituals you have chosen. And then if you can have any other thoughts on like their backstory at this point, you can tell us that as well, but you don't have to, because we're going to discover it in play. In fact, one of our main goals in Trophy Dark is simply to discover the character's backstory. So there's no worries if you don't know anything like that yet. But I'm going to go in reverse order of the sheet and start with Mike and Vero.
Okay, so Vero, he, him, his occupation is magician. Background is defrocked priest. His drive is become part of the swirling court. His skills are performance, rituals, trickery, and omens. I know 2 rituals. They are compel, which can force a creature to perform a non-lethal task, and inhabit, which is possess a creature. I don't know what the swirling court is yet. My vague idea is Vero was a priest of one of the more benevolent sisters, and found found some lost lore that made him question his faith, and then he turned to magic as opposed to his faith.
Okay, I love it. Fantastic.
And I don't know what the swirling court is. That's probably something you read in a book once, and we'll figure it out in play.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. I don't have any more questions, but if anybody else does, by all means. But if not, we shall move on to James and Saray, I I guess.
I'm okay. Saray sounds good to me. So character name is Saray. Pronouns are she, her, and her occupation was an oracle for Lord Hefir, and she was also a disgraced courtesan. So I think she got a little too close to Lord Hefir. And her drive now is to arm the resistance against Lord Hefir's tyranny. She is therefore skilled in interpretation, rituals, trances, and flattery. And she has the enliven ritual, which is give flesh and breath to an effigy, and scry, which is choose one fact and know it to be true.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm curious, were you a disgraced courtesan in Lord Hafir's court, or an oracle? Like, what was?
I think that primarily she was, a courtesan that had more use to him than some of the others, and she got very close to him, but she got so close that she got burnt, and I think that's how it kind of fell out.
That's good. We'll discover more as we go, but that's great. Thank you. Fabulous. All right, and Jay, tell us about Nima.
All right, Nima is her pronouns are she, her. Her occupation is a witch. Her background is an opportunistic grave robber, and her drive is to restore the lost glory of the Caliganus Grove. Her skills include homes, plants, rituals, death, and she chose 3 rituals. She learned 3 of them: bind, holding a creature in place for as long as you stay motionless; haunt, summon a spirit to torment the creature; and beast, take a form halfway between human and animal.
Fantastic. Any thoughts on the Caliganus Grove yet? Or
I mean, if it's open, I just feel like it is kind of a what are those followers of Orpheus? They're women.
oh yeah.
It's all. It's killing me now.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so the Caliganus Grove.
Yeah.
Okay, the Caliganus Grove. So like the Caliganus Grove, is it like I assume, is it a place, or is it like a?
I feel like it's a real place where this where Nima has been living kind of like a hermit.
Right.
Yeah, but I feel like that it's kind of debaucherous place, and I guess maybe it's kind of lost its past glory. So, and what it means to restore that lost glory, I guess we need to find out.
I mean,
So,
apparently it will require lots of money, because that's what you're all do, is to get money. So, okay, good. We'll talk more as we go.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have our 3 characters. Before we begin, I want to talk about just a couple of quick rules things. The first is that Trophy Dark is an incredibly collaborative game. I have what's called an incursion. It has a fairly simple sort of outline of what things are going to have, like what the progression is. It's a very kind of linear sort of progression. But within that skeletal framework is lots of space for all of us, not just me, all of us, to sort of change and add to and twist around the story, right? The principal way you'll do this is through a die roll called the risk roll. And there's a particular part of the risk roll called the Devil's Bargain. And the Devil's Bargain is your space to really introduce some strong story elements into the game, okay? So the way it works is, let's say, for example, a character is trying to jump across a chasm, okay? And they're collecting their dice. And if they accept the Devil's Bargain, they get more dice, okay? And so everybody at the table makes their offers. One player offers, okay, no matter what, whether you make it or not, you're going to drop your sword down the chasm, okay? Either because it falls off your hip as you jump, or because you also fall down the chasm, right? Like whether you succeed or fail, your sword's going down the chasm. That's a pretty simple Devil's Bargain. Not bad, but simple. A more interesting Devil's Bargain might be, no matter what, Lord Hafir's agents are on the other side of the chasm, right? And so now we've brought in the whole Lord Hufir storyline, right? Or you might say something like, no matter what, you will encounter someone from the swirling court, or something like that, right? You can sort of use the devil's bargains to kind of work in some of these story threads, and we'll figure out together what it all means, but that's how you can do it. I'll also be asking you lots and lots of questions throughout this. Trophy Dark is a very question and response kind of game. I pose questions, you answer questions, we create story, right? So just be prepared to answer questions. You don't have to be brilliant always. You should try to, but you don't have to be brilliant always. Sometimes the best answer is the most obvious thing or the simplest thing. So don't stress out too much about that. And is there any other rules thing? Oh, so your ruin can go up to 5. If it goes up to 6, your character's done. However, once you hit ruin 5, you now have permission to start betraying the group and reducing it. So this is a key part of the game. The characters eventually betray each other. Some of them will start betraying earlier than others, but you'll begin betraying the group in order to reduce your ruin. So that's a key part of the story. So don't sweat too much if you hit ruin 5 really fast, because you'll have a chance to start bringing it down. Okay, so with all that said, I'm going to introduce the incursion, and then I'm going to pose some questions to you all about the journey to the incursion, and then we're going to take a break so you can think about the answers. So, the Plantation. Ring 1. Deep within the blighted land, which the vengeful wood has reclaimed, lies the abandoned manses and forgotten manors of wealthy landowners and foppish nobles. Built in hubristic defiance of the old forest, tales spread among the borderlands of one such manor, a lavish plantation atop sweeping hills that overlook terraced fields, where, before the spirits of old Kaldor reclaimed what was theirs, indolent lords and ladies gorged themselves on progressively rarer and more esoteric delicacies to sate their endless hunger, eventually consuming their servants and even each other in orgiastic cannibal gluttony. It's a great phrase, right? Orgiastic cannibal gluttony. The nobles are gone now. They fled the butcher's knives of their comrades and the vengeful cleavers of their would-be meals. Only the accumulated wealth of all the region's only the accumulated wealth of all the region's nobility remains, hidden away under peeling floorboards and in dusty cellars, just waiting for an enterprising treasure hunter like you, hungry enough to find it. And so we will start with all of you on the journey to this part of the land where this one particular plantation is at. But before you arrive, you've been on the road together for a few days. And we might learn how you came to be together. This could be a relationship of convenience, or you might have histories with one another. We'll find out. But for now, you've been on the road together for a few days. Based off your skill sets, who among you do you suppose is the navigator? Who knows the way?
I would say Saray believes that she knows the way, that she's scribed this ahead of time. And though the path may be hard to find for many, she believes and walks confidently ahead, whether or not she's right about it.
Interesting. And of the two of you who are left, who is more likely to be the scout, meaning you are scouting ahead periodically and reporting back, keeping an eye out for danger?
I feel like Nima would be doing that. She is kind of a outlander type character. She likes to scout ahead and stay away from the group sometimes.
Yeah, that's good. And so, Pharaoh, that means you're left to make and break camp. That's your job in the group.
Fair enough.
And I have questions for all of you based off your role. This is an old dungeon role trick of mine, by the way. Saray, since you know the way, you are principally navigating by something in the geography, a natural landform, a historical structure, something from myth, maybe. There's something in the physical landscape that you're navigating by. I would like for you on the break to be thinking about what that is, and if there's a little story behind it, I'd like to know that as well.
Okay.
Nima, my question for you, what are you particularly worried about running into on this leg of the journey? What are you keeping an eye out for? It could be a particular group of people, a monster, some sort of local spirit, anything you want, really. But it's a danger that you are expressly trying to keep the group away from. Be thinking of that on the break. And Vero, because you're in charge of camp, you most frequently get to observe your companions, at least at this stage. One of your companions does something that you find to be incredibly irritating. I want to know what that is. And the other companion does something you find to be surprisingly endearing. Be thinking of those. And with that, we're going to take 5 minutes. We'll come back in 5. We might talk about these answers right away or might wait, but just be thinking on them. I'll see you in 5. Saray, tell me about this landmark that you are navigating by.
So I believe since Saray she is an oracle, she's attempted to scry and have a vision about where to locate this vast amount of treasure. And I believe she's had this vision of a little girl kind of watching from a window as she watches the nearby manor house and the debauchery that's going on. And there's laughter and there's people dancing. And there's a vast, gigantic chimney, like a furnace in the basement of this manor house. And she just sees kind of the flames and the dark black smoke kind of erupting from the top of the chimney. And she's crying as she watches this. And in the distance, I see the same chimney, and I'm navigating by this. While I tell my companions it's just kind of a divine sight, it's actually following the shape of this chimney, and I can see it off in the distance.
Nice. I imagine you probably see the smoke first, right?
Yeah. So, that's up to you. If there's smoke erupting from the chimney, I would definitely say that it is visible, and she would be following that. Now, maybe this was part of the manor house. Maybe it's closer, but it basically gets me to the area. It doesn't have to be the house itself. So I'll let you.
Get you within shot of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's great. Thank you. And Nima, what are you particularly worried about running into on this leg of the journey?
All right. So Nima, as a kind of a hermit of the Calicanus Grove, she has probably participated in some taboo rituals herself, possibly even being familiar with the taste of human flesh. One thing that she notices, she's learned about people who've participated in cannibalism is that oftentimes there are flies that accompany them, particularly around their eyes, their kind of bloodshot eyes. And she's on the lookout for that because that hints to her that there are cannibals nearby, or they're dealing with cannibals.
Interesting. I love it. And so you haven't quite reached the woods yet where the plantation is to be found, but you're getting close. And you have to make camp. And you've made camp a couple times at this point. It's been a fairly unremarkable journey up to this point. I'm not going to have a scene with you all yet. I want to wait on that. But I do want to know, as you're all kind of settling into camp, building your fire, getting things ready, figuring out who's going to be on watch first, that kind of thing. Vero, one of your companions does something you find to be incredibly irritating. What is it?
So the thing that I find really irritating about Nima is that there always seems to be flies buzzing about her. And, that's just, I mean, I don't smell anything bad on her, but she's always got a couple of flies buzzing around her. And that's just really damned annoying.
And apparently Saray does something you find to be incredibly endearing, or surprisingly endearing. What's it?
Just kind of like I'm looking at Saray's skills here, and so I'm going to try to build off one of those. I'm going to say, and if this is I mean, feel free to override this. But before she retires, she seems to do some kind of like ritual or meditation thing, like goes into a bit of a trance first before she then beds down. And I just find that somewhat endearing because she looks because when she enters the trance, she looks very serene and almost innocent.
Is that what's happening, Saray?
Is that okay?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, I think that she's very peaceful and reflective, and she's kind of got her legs crossed, and she's got her eyes closed, and just kind of taking some deep breaths and trying to prepare herself for what she knows is ahead.
And can I add a detail of my own thing for when we make a camp? So Vero usually is the one who starts and sets the campfire. And you've noticed what he uses for kindling. He pulls out this beautiful ancient holy book from his pack, and he rips out a couple of pages, and he uses that as kindling.
Very good. Thank you. Let's have the scene with everybody around the campfire. I'm particularly interested in exploring how you all got together. How did you come to be together? Is this strictly like a relationship of convenience, or you would have all come from a place called Fort Durin, and which is where a lot of people, sort of adventurers and stuff, sort of set out from. It's kind of in the middle of the wilderness, and so it would be very easy for you all just to have kind of fell in together, to have fallen in together for purposes of going to this lost plantation. But if there's something more, I'd love to know that as well. But let's just feel it out a little bit and kind of see where it goes with everybody around the fire.
So out of character, I'm just going to toss this out there. I think I mentioned this earlier, but all three of our characters seem to have magical backgrounds. We've got an oracle, a witch, and a magician. So perhaps in Fort Durin, we encountered each other doing, I don't know, like at a mystical library or at an alchemist shop who was selling that sort of thing, and we got to know each other that way.
I like that. Yeah, I like I think maybe like a kind of rundown alchemist shop. Maybe Saray would be found there, kind of diving through, the discarded bottles to find something that could, I don't know, seek vengeance against Lord Hafir's tyranny for what he's done to her and casting her out of his court. And maybe while at this alchemist shop, she eventually started talking to the resistance fighters and realized that there's a better way, and that she's not the best at sneaking in and poisoning somebody, but maybe leading an army against this man is what has to happen. And unfortunately, they want money, and she's sat down and she's tried to have this vision about where to go, and that's when she kind of sees this chimney, and she knows, you know, the legends, and she knows that there's supposed to be gold out there, and I think that would be her motivation. And as she sees you guys kind of in the alchemist shop, maybe I don't know if you're part of the resistance. I'll leave that up to you. But she's definitely sought your help as she's seen, you know, magical forces at play here.
I think Nima probably visits Fort Durin periodically to sell wares to the alchemist shop.
Yeah.
Because she has expertise in plants, but I think she's fairly unwanted in that place. She's kind of probably to the soldiers there stationed there. She's probably hideous, this hideous old crone, and often just kicked around and derisively. But I think maybe her talents as a wild person, as like a scout, and her knowledge of plants might be kind of led other people to suggest that you use her. And she's not aligned to anything except her own goal. So, but she's willing to go along and help.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I like it.
And I think
maybe Vero, like how do you fit in here as a magician? Are you like maybe a mage of the court that I would have known previously, or do you think, you know, are you in Fort Durin for another reason? Or
I think Vero ended up in Fort Durin because it's a place where a lot of outcasts tend to go, and he is a, you know, he was a priest that fell into heresy and was, you know, kicked out of the church, and that's when he, for his heretical views, and that's when he turned to magic as a source of power as opposed to faith. I see Vero as being mostly apolitical, but he is obsessed with joining the swirling court, which he believes is a cabal of he believes it is a cabal of powerful, like, sorcerers who are working to unlock the secrets of the secrets of the universe, and he wants in on that. I'm thinking that Vero. Oh, and for visuals, I'm envisioning Vero as being, he's probably in his, you know, maybe late 30s, early 40s. You know, he's got a very typical, like long, like fairly neatly trimmed goatee that's dark but starting to be streaked with gray. He shaves his head. I think he's got like tattoos on his head of mystical sigils. He's tall and he's pretty gaunt. Like, he doesn't. So he's kind of thin. He's not exactly sickly looking, but. And I think the reason he wants to go to the plantation is he has heard a rumor that. I mean, he's certainly interested in gold, of course. Who wouldn't be? But he's heard a rumor that there's a library there that has, you know, that has magical secrets, and, you know, he's heard a rumor that a former resident of the plantation was connected to the swirling court in some way, which is why he's interested in going.
Thank you. Before we keep going, we have a couple more lines to add to our lines and veils: homophobia and misogyny. So just FYI on that. And who is going to be on watch first? We need 2 watches. Who wants to go first?
I can take the first watch.
I'll take the second.
Okay. Vero, your watch is mostly uneventful. I will ask you this, though. Since you are a defrocked priest, I assume you don't, like, spend your downtime communing with the gods And so what do you do instead to pass the hours?
To pass the time, Vero is constantly like there are several various incantations of different magical rituals. I know not capital R rituals that you would cast in combat, but other magical rituals. There's incantations, and he's like constantly running these through his head so that when he does have to perform them, he's going to perform them flawlessly, or at least so he thinks.
Good. Your watch otherwise goes by without incident. A few hours later, Nima, you're on watch. How do you pass the time?
Probably eating random creatures that I find in the mud.
While you are busy feasting on mud grubs or whatever you're feasting on,
Yeah.
you'll hear the telltale sign of twigs cracking underfoot.
Yeah.
Just outside the perimeter of your watch. You'll even see in the moonlight silhouetted the vague shape of a person, probably a man based off their size. What do you do?
I look to my companions and they are asleep.
They're asleep. You'll hear
Good.
you'll hear a shh, shh, shh from that same person.
Okay. I step to the side and I crouch down.
This person steps a little closer. He says, I was just hoping I could warm my hands by your fire.
I say nothing and I keep eating my my mud grub and eyeing and just watching.
He kind of hunkers down and like duck walks into the into the area a little bit so as not to wake anybody, right? And he puts his hands by the fire a little tentatively because I think he's not really sure what your intentions are. But he's trying to show that he means you no harm. He doesn't seem to have a weapon or anything, as best you can tell. And he says, what have you got there? As you're eating.
And I kind of hide it a little bit. And I just kind of make some like wild animal noises, but keep watching. And I stay very motionless besides that.
He says, "Oh, it's all right. I don't mean to impress or to I don't mean to overstay my welcome." And he continues warming his hands by the fire. And that is, as he's sitting there, you'll notice a long millipede begins crawling out of his mouth and up his cheek and kind of is doing a circuit around his face and then crawls back into his mouth. But he seems like totally unaware of this. I'm not going to make you roll ruin just because of your nature, but I'm curious what you do or say, Nima.
I'd actually like to use one of my rituals, if that's possible.
Sure, which one?
Bind.
Okay.
To hold a creature in place for as long as I stay motionless.
I don't need you to roll for it because I don't. There's really truly no risk here. He's not like any danger, but you can just describe the ritual and do it. What does it look like?
Okay. So as I'm finishing up my mud grub, I kind of freeze in my in position, kind of hunched over. And I don't know if he's listening or not, but there's like a low hum that comes from like the pit of my stomach. And it's more kind of physical rather than like a spell being incanted, and just coming from force of will. I bind him. Something I learned in the grove.
he tenses up. You can see his muscles tensing up. And he says, Crone, I mean you no harm, truly. You do not need to ensorcel me this night. And as he's speaking, you can see under his lower eyelids are puffing ever so slightly as flies begin forcing their way out from under his lower eyelid directly onto his eye. And he again does not react. He doesn't even realize it's there.
My part of the binding ritual is that sound comes from me and it gets loud. I just make it louder and louder in order to wake up my companions.
Yeah, and based off what you've told us about what you were looking for, what you were worried about running into, I do want you to make the ruin roll now.
Yes.
The flies appearing from the eyelids. So just roll /ruin on the die roller. And you got a 2, which means your ruin doesn't go up. You're good. How are you feeling now?
Curious. I know that he's obviously a cannibal, and usually these people who kind of break this taboo come in with welcoming manners, but then it always turns bad. So and although I wasn't trying to wake them up, it's just part of the ritual that I just, in order to maintain it, I just get louder and louder.
Vero and Saray, you are awake, and you see this man. He's hunched down by your fire, but he can't move. And I think you wake up just after the flies coming out of his eyelids. So to you, it just looks like flies on his face. But let's just pick up with the two of you being awake.
You're muted.
You're muted, James.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think Saray would wake and she'd be very startled, and she would see this horrifying sight of this man with these flies, and she would probably like grab her blanket and kind of shield her eyes in an attempt to look away. She's not really used to seeing anything this horrifying. So
No,
I think
I'm sorry, to be clear, you missed the part with the flies coming out of the eyelids.
Okay.
You weren't awake yet.
Okay. So I kind of blink my eyes and I look over and I see the man standing by the fire.
Yeah, you see the man though. Yeah.
Yeah. And I call out. I would call out to Nima. Nima, who is it? Who is standing by a fire? Is this a friend?
I can't respond. I'm just like,
oh, because you have to hold him there. Yeah, you have to hold him there. Yeah.
So it's
that's
so
a creepy
strange
part of the scene as well. Nima just sitting there going, yeah.
So Vero like bolts up once he realizes there's like magic going on, and says, What is this? Oh, you've ensorcelled somebody, have you, Nima? Who is this creature? He then gets up and like walks over to the man who's bound. He just kind of like goes in and like looks him up and down as if he was like some kind of like weird, like a specimen on the table. Very, very curious, this creature.
He says, good sir, I mean you no harm. I only wish to warm my hands by the fire. And as he gives you a crack-toothed smile, and one of his canines is being forced out of his mouth by a cockroach crawling out of the socket. Roll ruin, please. Just Vero. That was an up close Vero thing. You're good. How are you feeling, Vero?
Morbidly fascinated, but also kind of shocked that it appears that this man is inhabited by insects. So A, that's weird, B, that's gross, and C, that's fascinating. What kind of magic is holding him together?
He looks past you, Vero, to you, Saray, and he says, Madam, you've seen the smoke, haven't you?
Who are you? How do you know of the smoke? Are you from?
And she kind of looks over and points in a vague direction of where she'd seen the smoke.
He says, no, I'm not from there, but I'm going there too. Perhaps I could help show you the way, if only your companion would release me from this ensorcelment.
She would kind of stand up.
Nima, what's going on? Why are you holding this man?
And I guess she would hear the kind of gurgling sounds, and she would start walking over, and she would look at Vero at this point. And
Vero, is this man dangerous?
Vero leans in and says, I'm not entirely sure that this creature is indeed a man. Perhaps was one once, but I think he might be a bag of flesh that's filled with insects and vermin. Fascinating.
As soon as I see that they are all prepared, and we could probably, or will not be surprised by him, I kind of drop the binding.
He says, he sort of relaxes, right? And he says, thank you. I did not mean to bring any sort of disruption or ill feeling to your party. I merely wanted to warm my hands by the fire. And here you can see his hands, and you can see the flesh rolling and waving under his palms, the back of his hand, as creepy crawlies move underneath the skin. Everyone roll ruin, please.
Oh.
Everyone's going up.
Oh.
His work is done here. He says, I will leave you be. Perhaps we shall encounter each other again, since I believe we are going to the same place. I'll be sure to put some distance between us, though. I don't want to upset anyone. And he stands up and he lopes off into the darkness.
Saray would be kind of frozen. And if she could, she'd call out to him if she's has enough mental faculty. And
Stranger, what is your name?
He says, I will, forgive me, madam, but I shall not tell you, for the forest has spies everywhere, and for the forest to know your name is to give the forest power over you. Surely you know that.
she kind of squints her eyes, knowing that this creature is wise.
I start gathering my stuff and I say, we should leave.
It is nearly the crack of dawn. It's very, very close. You can get an early start. Everyone's ruin is going up according to the dice, as far as I can tell. That puts dear Nima at 5. Nima, because you're at 5 ruin, you now have the ability to do what's called a reduction roll. And a reduction roll, it works automatically, but what you're rolling for is to see if your companions notice you or not. But basically, you have to betray them in some way. And there are loads of ways of betraying the group, even at this early stage. It can be something small. It can be maybe something to do with this bug man. It can be anything you want. But you'll want to do it pretty quickly, though, because we're about to get to the real proper horrifying stuff here. So.
All right. Are we? I guess we're leaving, right?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I think. I think I'm going to start moving. In the opposite direction that that figure. How can I explain this? The way that I interpret what you said was that he came up, just warmed his hand, and then he walked off. He continued his journey, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And my companions, I know, did not see where he came from.
Right.
So I'm going to say, I think, just because I'm the scout, I'm like, this is the way. And I'm going not toward the plantation, but toward like where he's coming from.
Good.
Hopefully trying to, find out more of where, more of him.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. It's very good. Go ahead and do the reduction roll. So just do / reduction.
Okay.
And this still has the wrong text in the die roller, the updated reduction roll. Your ruin still goes down. So you go down to 4, but because you rolled a 6, which is higher than your current ruin, the others will notice that you're going in the wrong direction. They're going to notice that you're purposely taking them the wrong way. So we probably need to have that scene once you realize that Nima has set off in the wrong direction, especially Saray. Like, what do you say? What do you do?
Yeah, I'd call out.
The smoke. We're supposed to go to the smoke. Why are you following that man?
I'm not following the man. The man went the other way.
Yeah,
this is the way.
This
is the way.
Yeah.
But
You're going in the direction he came from, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Why are we going in
very
this?
Suspicious. Mm-hmm.
Why are we going in this direction?
Did you not hire me to guide you through and scout ahead? This is the way. This is the way we came, the way we were heading. Are you as stupid as you look?
I think Saray would take offense to this remark, and she kind of marches forward and kind of puffs her chest out and very like aristocratically.
How dare you speak to me in that manner?
I was going to say Vero pushes his spectacles down and gives her a very hard look.
Very good.
Oh wow, that's so funny. I
So
mean,
Nima, you can keep doing this. Once you've done it once, you can keep betraying the group and getting your ruin lowered and lowered.
got it.
But so you can now do that. That's unlocked for you.
Okay.
But in any case, I'll continue on.
Okay.
Narration. You do go the wrong way for a time, and you will notice, Nima, quite a preponderance of insects and bugs. It's actually maybe a little unclear if this is connected to the cannibalism thing you're worried about, or if this is some other phenomenon. But in any case, you eventually will all get back on the right track. But your companions, Nima, are certainly probably not too chuffed with you right now. Because by the time you get going back on the right track, the sun is already in the sky. You've wasted, a good portion of the morning. But you're continuing on. And by midday, you all have made it to the woods, where you believe the plantation can be found, or at least somewhere in the heart of these woods, or past them in that case. But you're in the right direction. And you go through the woods for a time. And then the woods fall away, and you see spread out in front of you, miles in most directions, a quite open area. Maybe you're looking down on it. You can see in the distance terraced fields of rice. You can see the great plantation house a little further. You can even see the chimney. It's another building, Saray, but it's there a little ways off to one side. You have arrived on the estate. It's a very big, and it'll take you some time to get through it all to get to the plantation house, but you're there. You are on the far edge of the once manicured grounds, now quite overgrown, when you see a group of noblemen and noblewomen sitting around a wooden table on the road. They are garbed in shredded, gore-encrusted, mud-smeared finery, and they seem to be hunched over a bloated, fly-shrouded corpse of a massive pig on the table. At one point, you see them quite greedily split the stomach of the pig open and begin to reach in and grab great handfuls of rotting viscera and meat and pull it out and begin eating them, like smearing the blood and stomach matter on their faces. They haven't noticed you yet, but I would like for everyone to make a ruin roll right now, please. I'll also note here that I owe everyone conditions, and we'll talk about those conditions in a bit. And I see that Ema's going back up to 5. We'll talk about your conditions in a moment, but because everyone's getting them from last time. But for the time being, Saray, I'm curious, what do you do?
I am perplexed. I was under the assumption that the nobles had left, and I'm studying them carefully and trying to determine if these are living creatures or if there's some kind of animated monstrosities. And I'm kind of trying not to throw up as I'm trying to look at the scene in more detail.
Do you get closer?
I do get closer, yeah. I kind of hunch down, and I imagine I'm kind of behind this, I guess, manicured, once manicured, shrubbery that's like in the shape of maybe a large elephant, but now it looks kind of grotesque. And I'm kind of looking past it as I try to peek over the bushes and see more carefully what's happening at this table.
I'm going to go ahead and give you your condition.
Mm-hmm.
Pain quite suddenly racks your belly. You can't stop yourself from consuming anything that looks even remotely edible. Note that on your page somewhere and lean into it in the role play.
All right.
As you get closer, though, you'll notice that these noblemen and women in their tattered, gore-encrusted finery, and they also have like powdered wigs on their heads, but they're askew and also covered in filth. You'll notice that their pockets are weighed down heavily by gold and jewels overflowing out of them. It's like they took all their precious belongings, as much as they could, and left wherever they were. And now they're here having their macabre feast. What do you do?
my eyes would kind of linger on the jewels, but I'd be drawn back to the pig. And I see that it's kind of rotting and it's massive, but my stomach kind of churns. And I'm very, I think she prepared, and she's wearing like very practical leathers, and she kind of finds herself pushing past kind of the hedges closer to the table, and getting too close for comfort, but she just can't stop herself from trying to get a bite of the large pig on the table.
Yeah. They'll see you and they'll say, "Oh, how magnificent. We haven't had visitors for so long. Please, please join us. I fear we don't have chairs, but you're welcome to take a handful as you wish and find a comfortable spot. Please, please."
She just freezes in horror at the civility of this man, and she stands up and kind of shakily kind of reaches out for, I assume that there's no, like, are there any cutting utensils here, like forks and knives, or is it it's all just hands?
It's all hands.
She sees
than cut. Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of grabs a piece of the large pig, and can't stop herself from like animalistically like gnawing on a piece that she rips off the torso.
Very good. Yes, yes. I quite like the ribs as well. The bone is wonderful after you're done with the meat. It's like the meal just keeps on giving. You can suck the marrow. You can pick your teeth with it. You can carve it into whistles or other precious object, whatever you want to do. What are you doing right now, Vero?
So I'm thinking that Vero was hanging back, watching Saray. So he's still pretty far back, but he's kind of like hiding behind he's kind of like hiding behind an overgrown topiary. He's kind of like peeking around, and he mutters to himself like, "What is that fool woman doing, joining them? Strange, though. They don't seem to mind. They're inviting her to that disgusting table. She's actually eating that offal? Ugh."
I
It's
think
like,
one of the noble women, Vero, will say, "Oh, you brought others with you. How splendid. Please, please, come join us, sir. There's plenty for all."
yeah, I was thinking that Vero started sub-vocalizing, but since he spends most of his time, before he embarked on this journey, since he spends most of his time alone, he didn't realize that he was actually talking aloud.
I mean, I think they would have just noticed you anyway at a certain point. But you're getting a condition as well, correct?
Yes, my rune did go up earlier.
Yeah. Give me a moment. Oh, you are going to start developing a nervous tick where you're biting at your nails, but you'll eventually start chewing off the tips of your fingers as well. But so that's your appetizer condition, at least. It might get worse. She will call you over, both of you. She'll say, "Please join us. There's plenty for everyone." Nima, you will notice all of the jewels and gold and stuff overflowing from their pockets. You'll even see a few things that have spilled out into the ground. It's unclear if your companions have seen these things yet.
I just have a question about the characters. Is it assumed that we would just have the things that?
Yeah. You have
treasure.
adventuring stuff you need. Yeah.
I'm sure. What kind of armor do I have on? Is it leather? And
Yeah.
All right.
AC8. It's great.
All right. I'm gonna.
Do I have a scimitar or a
Yeah,
falchion?
exactly. Right.
Yeah, I think I very enthusiastically kind of join in.
That's right, because you're used to eating disgusting.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
things,
And I immediately go and pluck out. I pluck out an eye from the.
Oh, very good.
And but I take it out because I carry these porcupine quills.
Oh,
that I use as
cocktail sticks,
as instruments. Yeah, and I'm just like I'm cackling as I.
Vero, both of your companions are revolting. Apparently, what are you doing right now?
I think Vero is hanging back a little bit. He's approached since these people don't seem to be a threat. However, I noticed that they're laid down with jewels and whatnot. I think dollar signs are appearing in Vero's eyes here, but not wanting to make too much, not wanting to draw too much attention to himself. Vero starts muttering an incantation kind of under his breath and makes a few gestures at I think probably the nearest I'm going to say a noble woman who's kind of at the edge of the table, like the far end of the table who's near me. I'm casting a ritual. I'm going to cast compel, and I'm going to plant a suggestion in her mind to get up from the table and basically give me her money.
Yeah, interesting. I like this as a risk roll. So let's do the risk roll. So the risk roll works is you state what you're trying to do, which Mike has done, and now the rest of us as players get to say, if we wish, what we think might go wrong here if Vero fails the die roll. And so I'll ask James and Jay, do you have any ideas of what could go wrong at this moment if Vero's plan goes awry?
Go ahead, James.
Could you briefly restate your intent here?
My intent is to cast a spell of ensorcelment on the nearest noblewoman to plant an idea. I'm using the compel ritual, and I want to plant an idea in her head that she wants to give me her money and jewels.
I think, I think it could go wrong, and maybe as she kind of like starts, dumping these jewels on the table, things just too disgusting for you to see kind of spill out of her pockets, maybe body parts, fingers, things of that nature. And though you are a greedy bastard, you just can't get over what you see.
I would like to suggest that if you fail, I think they'll just become like quite paranoid of all of you, and suddenly this won't be a convivial dinner or lunch anymore.
I'm gonna say, I wonder if it's too close to what James said, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
It's okay. This is all just kind of brainstorming. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that if you fail, they give you the cursed part of their, like they catch on of it, but there is like something that they've been keeping that is cursed, and they pass it to you.
I like that. Okay, so let's take a look at your dice, Mike. So you get one light die if you have a relevant skill. So what do you think?
Well, I do have a skill on rituals, so.
Sounds good. And let's talk about your second light die. And here's where it gets interesting. The second light die is if you accept a devil's bargain from one of us. A devil's bargain, I'll remind you, is something that will happen in the fiction no matter what. Whether you succeed or fail, if you take the bargain, this thing is going to happen. And so the bargain has to be something that can happen no matter what. And I will start by saying my devil's bargain is no matter what, she wants something in return. It's not a complete one-sided transaction.
My devil's bargain would be that she's wearing maybe an insignia, maybe like some kind of amulet that indicates that she's part of the swirling court. But she doesn't seem pleased to see you as she hands the food over. Maybe she's suspicious of mages. I'm not sure what it is, but
I'm gonna say no matter what, the others notice the attention that you're giving her and they get jealous.
So you have three choices there, Mike. What do you think? You can reject them too. You don't have to.
Yeah. I kind of like yours, Jason. I think she wants something in return. I have something in mind, but
risk
see if she wants it.
Yeah, risk 2-1 because you have to do a dark die for the ritual, so it's 2 light, 1 dark. See how you did. Hey, 6 light. Doesn't get any better than that. What does the ritual look like? Even if it's subtle, what does it look like?
So the subtle ritual is so he's like I'm seeing that he's a magician, so I'm kind and this is a fantasy game, so I'm kind of like seeing almost D&D-ish. He's muttering some like incomprehensible magical language words under his breath, and he's making some gestures. He's trying to be subtle about it, but if you know magic, you can tell he's actually casting magic. And the thing that's actually the tell is his eyes glow ever so slightly. They glow slightly green, as do hers. Which is the indication to Vero that the spell is actually taking effect. And I implant the suggestion that I am an ancient I am a debtor, and to square her debts she must give me she must settle her debt and give me her gold and jewels.
We'll come back to this moment. I've got an idea, but we'll come back to it. But you're locked and loaded. Well, Nima, you're at the threshold again of ruin. So if you want to do some betrayal, you might want to get on that. What would you do if you wish to? What would you do here at the table while everyone's kind of, being cordial? It's revolting. It's a disgusting display, but everyone's, kind of doing their thing. I owe you a condition as well, but we'll talk about yours in a moment.
I have been noticing their treasure that they have. They're hiding. Do I notice any like weapons? Do they have anything to protect themselves?
I think the nobleman right next to you has like a jeweled dagger. It's probably very valuable.
Okay, and I feel like the bad thing to do would be to call attention to Vero's trickery, right, or his compel, right? So
yeah.
So I'm gonna take my my porcupine quill, and I'd like to stab the one with the bejeweled dagger, like in the throat, if that's possible.
Oh, interesting. In order to upset.
Yeah.
I like that. Let's just do it as a reduction roll.
Okay.
And we'll kind of flow with it from there. Right. But roll it. Let's see how it's going. Let's just do reduction. Okay, so you're going down to 4, and no one notices. Like are you trying to be like you're trying to keep the stabbing secret, or like your intention secret?
My intention secret. It looks like because we're treasure hunters. We're just gonna kill them. But
yeah. So you're just like violently. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, that gets everyone's attention, right? And yeah, so the scene is quite chaotic now because we'll just describe it. What do you do, Nima?
I feel like we're all kind of laughing and kind of really getting into the kind of horror of the of the scene of just eating the pig. And then I notice Vero trying his magic, and I see that he's trying to get something that, you know, from this from one of the noblemen, and I feel like he's going to take my share.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, you know, put my stake on the claim, and I immediately just stab the guy in the neck. And so the laughter just turns to, you know, I mean, I don't know what they are. They could be anything, but
The blood from his neck sprays on your mouth, Saray. Sprays inside your right here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about his blood. How can you tell there's something foul in his blood?
I think there's the definitely strong taste of iron, but there's a sweetness to it and kind of a sickness.
Like the sweetness of rot.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something wrong with it, and but she can't help but lick her lips, and she hates herself for that. But there's something that she likes about it.
And one of the noble women, when she sees what you've done, she says, "Oh, my brother, your precious fluids are escaping you." And she kind of dives onto him and is trying to like cover the wound that Nima left. Meanwhile, the noble woman that you compelled, Vero, she says, "Oh, what's going on? We are you bandits? I would have given you everything. You need not raise arms against us, sir."
I think Saray would try to calm the situation now if she could.
I want to check in with Vero. Vero, when she says that, will you?
Vero like says like, I had not intended to attack anyone. This is unexpected.
She throws herself at your feet, Vero, and she says, "There's more. There's more. There's so much more. I can take you to it. I can take you to it if only you'd spare my life." And well, it was supposed to be my dowry. I suppose it's not too late. Are you currently taken, sir? She says through rotted teeth.
How do I want to play this? Do we want a less than reliable guide? I'm thinking
She says,
probably.
I would be a very good wife. I know how to do all the cross stitch. I've learned a number of patterns by memory. I'm not much for cooking, but I'm very, very good at ordering the servants about. I know how it should be done.
Alas, madam, I am indeed. I am indeed taken. I have someone back in Fort Durin. Alas, I cannot accept that. Alas, I must reject the proposal.
I think Saray would kind of lean into that if possible, and she would kind of lean over and embrace Vero.
Oh, very interesting.
Vero is Vero looks looks taken aback, but then he realizes what Saray is going for, and then he just kind of like puts his arm around her.
Nima, one of the nobles across the table, he has drawn a saber, and he's in bad shape. His eye is hanging from the socket, and his skin is practically sloughing off the bone, and his wig is all a tatter and smeared with blood and shit. But he's drawn this saber, and he says, "Wretched crone, you're like those that turned against us, those ungrateful wretches who turned against us. We did everything for them, everything. We We gave them work, we gave them purpose, and they raised their hands against us. And now look at the state of things. You're just like them, treacherous to the core. It's your bad breeding, isn't it? It's a wonder you've lasted as long as you have, old woman. And he's practically crawling over the pig, crawling over the table to get to you, Nima. Nima, what do you do?
While he was giving his speech, I'm just cackling and trying to fill my own pockets with all the treasure from the guys who's on the ground. And when I notice that he's coming closer, I turn to him and I utter like words, and I I perform the ritual of haunt.
Good. I don't even need a roll here. He's not actually dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
he will tumble off the table and like his weakened bones will shatter as he lands hard, and he's just sort of like twisted and like on the ground, like reaching for you, fruitlessly trying to like grab you.
I'm just laughing. I'm laughing, kicking at him, and I'm encouraging my companions who I guess are dealing with that woman. I'm like, it's ours for the taking. I'm just like filling, whatever sacks I have.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. You can grab handfuls of treasure, and the party is very agitated now at this point, and they're all howling about your betrayal. The woman, when you like are pretending to be a couple, Saray and Vero, she looks at you, Vero, and she says, "How could you do this to me? I loved you. I was in love with you. I would have made a wonderful wife. I would have given you everything. So many children."
Enough of that.
You all can leave as you wish. You can grab treasure and leave these wretches to their grievances if you wish.
I think before leaving, Saray would say,
You're quite beautiful, madame, and you had such a lovely table, such a nice setting.
and she would smile as she kind of tries to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. You could just leave them there after you take your fill of the gold and jewels.
Yeah, and as I'm leaving, I'm looking at. I'm sure that everyone's pissed at me, and I'm like, "We are treasure hunters, are we not? This is what we do."
I was as we're walking away, leaving leaving these wretched, disgusting nobles behind us. I look at Nima. It's like, yes, we wanted their treasure, but I was trying to use subtlety and get them to give it to us rather than having to resort to violence.
And
we
Saray
may have to do violence later, but it didn't seem necessary here.
Saray would kind of butt in.
I can't believe that I told you of this place and brought you all the way out here, and you go and get greedy when we first see the first sign of treasure.
Just give them a I just kind of continue on the way.
And as we walk away, you notice that Vero has his thumb in his mouth, and he's biting off. He's biting off one of his thumb. He's biting his thumbnail.
And I owe you a condition as well, Nima. As you're all walking off, here's where you'll notice that something has taken up residence underneath your skin. You can hear it whispering to you, whatever it is. It's just a lump under your wrist, and it's whispering, but it's still too quiet. It's just a little. Can't quite make it out yet, but it's there.
I just ignore it and wrap it up and hide it.
Yeah. And a question for you, Nima. in the scrum, while the other two especially were occupied with that noble woman, you managed to find one particularly fine or important treasure among the stuff that you found or you're grabbing, and you hide it away from the other two. What is it?
It is like a little tube that has the seal of Lord
Hafir.
Lord
Yeah,
Hafir.
good.
And I only recognize it because Saray is constantly going on about it. And I see that it might be something I don't want to share with the group.
I think that's worth a reduction roll. You should,
yeah.
You should take that. Take a reduction because you get to keep going with reductions.
Yeah. So, but by the way, sorry, guys.
What was your reduction roll? What did it end up being?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just went ahead. Don't I just go ahead and I have to roll, right?
Yeah.
Reduction?
Oh, yeah. Just roll reduction. Yeah. Just because you described it as a Lord
that's right.
fear thing. That's what
I
found interesting.
4. So it was right on it.
I hate to do this, but can I raise a rules issue?
Yeah. What is the rules issue?
I don't think your ruin can go below, even with a reduction. I don't believe your ruin can.
Oh,
go
it
below
can't
your
go below the
ruin.
starting value. That's right. Yeah. Because your starting value is 4. You're kind of stuck at 4. Yeah. That's a very good point. Thank you, Mike. So yeah, but I like the scroll tube with the Lord Hafir. That's really good. Yeah, it's good.
I don't know what's in it. I just know it's valuable, and maybe not monetarily, but definitely to Saray.
Yeah. Could be leverage for later, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Maybe after I scolded you, you had a little resentment.
Let's do one more scene and then we'll go on break. So you get past these nobles and their pig and the chaos of that scene when you come upon an overturned stagecoach. The stagecoach appears to have been torn apart in a frenzy. There are suitcases and bags of shredded and discarded finery strewn all over the road. Moldering, maggot-infested corpses of a pair of horses are still lashed to the wagon. The charred body of a footman is strung up under a tree, the skin crisped black as the bark of an oak. A cook fire still smolders beneath the body, fueled by the remnants of muddy, ashen silks and satins. If you look closely enough, you'll notice that there are bite marks all up and down the footman's legs and side, and what's left of the skin of his face is pulled taut into a rictus grin. Everyone please roll ruin. So we're getting a couple of 5s on the table. I'm curious, for those of you whose ruins are going up right now because you rolled higher than your current, how's this scene making you feel?
I would say, as she looks at the corpse, Saray is initially horrified, but she finds herself approaching it. Her stomach's still rumbling with this kind of endless hunger. And she's just kind of inspecting the smile and kind of running her fingertips over the lips and just kind of grasping what this person went through and why even in death they could be happy. And she wonders what that happiness is like as she takes a piece of the flesh and just puts it against her tongue to see if it tastes good. And unfortunately it does, and she hates it.
Rules question again. Is it so your ruin goes up if it goes Is it above or it has to?
It's got to be higher. If the room is higher, yeah.
Got it.
Yours went up, correct, Vero?
Yes.
How do you feel?
I'm going to say that that clearly the fact that someone had tried to cook and eat this corpse is I'm finding that like utterly repugnant, and just he's like, so Vero's just kind of like shaking his head and is feeling, oh, this is even more disgusting. This is even more disgusting than what those people were doing with that pig. At least pigs are something you eat. Ugh. And as he sees Saray like inspecting that corpse just a little too closely, he's giving her a very, very questioning and accusatory look. But the fact that someone tried to eat a corpse is just he's finding like really, really repulsive and vile, to the point where he's starting to feel a bit sick to his stomach.
Nima, a question for you. Has Nima ever suffered from desperation and hunger?
Yes. I mean, just kind of living. She's used to living on the edge of starvation.
What's something you've done in order to combat that? Something that perhaps you're not proud of?
I had I lived with I didn't live alone all the time. I lived with my sister, and she eventually got sick, and she starved to death. So I did not starve to death. So I sustained myself on her, which is why that's why the flies are on all the time.
Very good. Well, that fills in that bit of the backstory. That's good. For a moment, you all smell the most delicious smells wafting in on the air. The smells of bread, wine, cooked meat. But they're gone moments later. A little further ahead on the road, you see a pack of starving feral hounds snarling and snapping over a bone. And the air is absolutely filled with the maddening, unending buzzing of flies. And so passes ring 1. We'll take a 5-minute break. Ring 2, the trek to the manor house. You emerge into the irrigated rice fields that stand between you and the manor house of the plantation. Tall, neck-high stalks of golden yellow jut out like spears from brackish, knee-deep waters. Overhead, the sky is ashen, and the air is thick with smoke that billows up from scattered fires throughout the fields. Everything smells of ash and charcoal, and the faint, coppery taste of blood is in your mouth, or what's left over from whatever you might have been eating on in recent times. Sorry, go ahead.
Since we're going through an open area where I can observe a lot of plants, and that's one of my skills, I have noticed that there's a correlation between kind of necrotic people dying, and then the earth kind of being more regenerative. So like there's a lot of life that accompanies the death that surrounds it. And I'm looking at the plants to see if they look healthy.
They do. If there was someone here to actually work these fields, this would be very profitable. You could get a good harvest from it. The stalks are golden, and the system they have, it's fields, but they're like terraced. You have to like go, down them and up them, because that's easier to grow rice that way. If there was someone like actually tending to this, it would be something. You're probably correct that there's a connection between like the death and the life, right? I'm curious though, since you have such a connection to plants, Nima, and because you have things in your skin whispering to you, maybe there's something with the plants, that the rice stalks are whispering to you about this place. What do you suppose they're whispering?
That the plants are whispering about this plant, or the thing in my skin, my wrist.
Oh, the plants. Yeah, the plants are whispering. Yeah, but only to you.
Okay. Well, what I was looking for was if they were healthy or not. And if they were, I realize there's death everywhere. I can see that. But if they didn't seem healthy, then I would know that there was truly something wrong. Like I feel like the world that we're in right now, how horrific it is still part of the balance there. I haven't seen something that's too far out. And then I feel like it's maybe even with a little bit of malice that everything's okay. But I know plants, they never give you a straight answer anyway, so.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to say to everyone, before we continue, that as you're descending into these rice fields, the cinders, the smoke, the stalks of rice, it starts to make it difficult to stay together. It's almost like the rice fields are trying to separate you. The mud at your ankles is as thick as molasses, and as you're trying to wade through it, there are swarms of biting flies going after your exposed flesh. And the heat is unimaginable. It's so hot and muggy. But it's like something is pulling you all apart, whether you are all just wandering apart or whether there's something physically sorting you, hurting you away from each other. You will find yourselves pretty quickly not together, going in the same direction, but not together. I'd like to check in with Vero. Something is weighing you down, making this slow, muddy, sloppy trek even harder. What is it, and why can't you afford to simply discard it?
I'm going to take this more metaphorical. I am seeing signs and omens everywhere. Like I walk through one of the rice paddies, and some of the stalks have fallen over into patterns that are basically saying that this, don't go here. This is I'm seeing lots of omens that are simultaneously telling me that this is a bad place. You shouldn't go here, and also signs that there are great riches ahead. And if you're smart enough, clever enough, quick enough, you can make out like a bandit here and seek what you're looking for. But I'm like seeing an omen, and I take a moment to interpret it, and then I go a little farther and I see something else that's an omen, and I feel compelled to watch it to try to interpret it as I keep going. And generally, they're all summing up to be bad, but the but I'm compelled. I just feel, this
Let's-
is, I'm here now. I'm here now.
Let's play with this idea a little bit. You're Rune 5. How might the interpretation of these omens be used to your advantage and to the disadvantage of the group?
Oh, I could follow these omens. Oh, maybe I could use these omens and the signs that this place is telling me. Maybe it's a good thing that I'm getting separated, because maybe I'm going to use these omens to try to get my companions, kind of like off the track, so I can get a little farther ahead of them. So hopefully I'll be able to find the treasure before they do.
In order to get the reduction roll, tell me what you take from the rice paddies or the land that is like a physical manifestation of the sign that you're going to share with them that will lead them astray.
I go into one paddy and there's like some of the rice stalks, and in the middle of one of these rice stalks, it's thicker than it should be, and there's a big gall in it.
Oh.
And that gall is kind of like, the gall is kind of like misshapen, and there's like in the patterns of it, there's a well-known mystical sigil. And I'm going to interpret, but I'm going to when I show it to my companions when I catch up, I'm going to deliberately misinterpret it and tell them that it's one thing when I know it's actually something else.
I like it. That's good. Take the roll for now, just to see if your story will be any good in the future, but let's just have the reduction roll. It will. Lower your ruin by 1. Saray, you're coming upon someone, and maybe at first you think it's one of your companions, but then you realize pretty quickly it's not. In fact, it's a little hard to tell because when you first met him, it was darker, but it seems like it might be that man from last night. What do you do?
Is he kind of walking ahead of me in the fields? Is he looking at me or walking away?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be aware of you yet. He's kind of walking ahead, moving through the tall stalks.
I would call out to him. Sir, have you seen the horse here? Are you going the way we are to the manor house?
He spins around. Well, not quite spins. It's the water. The water and mud is too mucky for that. But he sort of like turns and he says, "Oh, it's you again. Yes, isn't it wonderful? The smoke. It was all true. Isn't that marvelous?"
She would look at him and they're alive. The nobles, they're alive. I've seen them.
Yes, well, the stories are not always correct when they reach us, are they? Rumors.
Sir, help me.
She kind of runs over and clings to him.
Get me out of here. I'm here to find treasure, but these horse.
He says, I can certainly help you. Wouldn't it be better if perhaps, well, there are certain caretakers up ahead, people, if you could call them that, who are patrolling the manor grounds. I think it's possible to avoid them and get the treasure you seek, if only, well, they could be distracted by someone else.
She eyes Nima as he says this.
Well, you can't see the others. You're alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have companions. You've seen them. The one with the flies. She could be a distraction.
Oh yes, the one that ensorcelled me. Yes. Well, I can do something about that. I wonder if perhaps you would let me whisper something in your ear, ma'am.
She can't help but kind of shiver as he says this, recalling what crawled out of his mouth. And she walks forward and she nods.
He says, "The forest speaks through me. I am a nest, a home for all the things that choose to live there. Let me whisper to you their learned wisdom, learned over the centuries, over the eons. Repeat these words to your companion, and you will find the way to be much easier. Lean in."
I lean in.
He opens his mouth. Take your reduction roll now, just because this is the betrayal. This is the treacherous act.
Oh.
So your betrayal will be obvious when you get back.
But I lower.
It does good. It still goes down. He opens his mouth, and his tongue extends from his mouth and bobs from side to side, undulating, weaving. Two little antennae pop out of the tongue. And on the lower part of his tongue, there is a sucker-like mouth. His tongue is like a large slug moving back and forth. And it's whispering to you. And if you get very close, you can hear what it's whispering.
I lean in even closer.
And we'll just leave what it says off screen for now.
Right.
Nima, I want to take a ruin roll for slug tongue as well, Saray.
So Saray will take a ruin roll.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Back up to 12.
Oh.
Okay. We'll just be on the knife's edge all night. Nima, you are also separated from the group, but you eventually come upon Saray, and you see that man that you ensorcelled earlier the night before, and you see him whispering something into Saray's ear. This is the betrayal being made manifest to the rest of the group, or at least to Nima. Nima, what do you do?
I mean, I picture it very clearly. I just kind of like peer through the the rice, and I just see them from the back, from behind. I remain hidden, and I try to go around them to stay out of their path. And I don't know anything about rice, but does it have sharp bits to it?
I don't know either. We can say this rice does if you have an
Okay.
idea.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I feel like the parts of it are very like razor sharp,
Sure.
and I kind of run as I'm going through. I feel like my wrist is itchy,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to like rake the razor part against the wrist, just try to ease the itching and hopefully quiet the whispering.
Saray, the man says, now speak the words aloud, loud, so that the smoke can hear you. And they're just arcane words.
Mhm.
Do you
She
speak them?
repeats the words. Yeah.
Nima, you can hear the words that Saray is speaking loudly through the rice stalks. And almost straight away, you feel something grab and tug at your leg from beneath the water. Something has hold of you and it is trying to pull you down. What do you do, Nima?
See, could I do? I use another one of my rituals.
Which one?
And beast.
Okay. Let's make a risk roll. What are you trying to accomplish? Just to escape, I assume.
Escape, yeah.
Mike and James, what could go wrong here?
I think maybe as this thing kind of grabs out at you and you start transforming into a beast, maybe the transformation triggers some kind of aggravation of the thing in your wrist, and it gets worse.
I was going to suggest that taking the beast form is easy. Getting out of the beast form may not be so easy.
That's what I was going to say too. You're going to stuck as a beast for a while. That's a classic, right? Classic. That was always the go-to, like Druid 7 to 9 in Dungeon World, right? Good. I love it. Let's talk about your dice. Well, you have rituals as well, so you have your first die, no problem. Devil's bargains, something that will happen no matter what. I'm going to say, no matter what, kind of playing off James's idea, no matter what, the thing underneath your wrist is your sister.
Oh, yes. That's going to be hard to top, gentlemen.
Yeah, that'll be hard to top. I always know how to get straight to the heart of it. By all means, try to trump it, please.
I don't think I can top that. No, I bow.
I mean, that was kind of that's sort of where I was going, which was mine was going to be the thing grasping at you from under the water was your sister.
Oh, that's pretty good too, actually. That's actually, I actually like it. I would even defer that one. That's pretty good. So, anyway, whatever you want, Jay. Either the thing in your wrist is your sister, or the thing in the water is your sister.
I think the thing on the wrist is as my sister. Okay. I think that's even more horrifying.
They're both pretty good. Okay, good. So you got 2 light, and you have to do a dark because of the ritual. So you'll do /risk to 1. Hey, 6 light.
Yeah.
Go ahead and describe your give us what the ritual looks like, what the transformation looks like, how you escape whatever's grabbing at you.
I turn. It says takes the form halfway between human and animal, and the animal that I take is the heron, a blue heron. So it's like halfway between a human and a blue heron, and I fly above the rice paddy.
I like
a human face, of course. I have a human face.
we'll talk about the sister situation in a moment. But
yeah.
Vero, this is how you will be able to find your way out of the rice paddy, because you'll see this heron beast, this bird beast, flying up out of the rice paddy towards, basically towards the road, essentially is where it's going. Do you give chase?
I'm absolutely going to give chase, especially because I look down and I see I see a leaf that's like on the ground, and it's sort of in the shape of a heron, and it's pointing in the same direction. So I'm going to take that as yet another omen.
That's a good omen.
I'm going to go in that. I'm going to go. That's a good omen. I'm going that way.
Yeah. Saray, the man, the bedraggled man, he will look at you and he'll say, "It seems your companion has given you the slip, but it was a solid effort."
You promised me results. What if you abandoned me? Do you not have the power?
He says, "The crone is very, very good. She knows the ways of the land, and she knows the ways of magic. Here, perhaps you would allow me to imbue you with some of my own connection to the land."
She kind of shivers again as she like imagines what he intends to do, but her hatred for the crone is growing, and she nods her head again.
You can take a reduction roll if you have the room to do it.
Yeah. All right, back down to 4.
He says, "Lean close once again."
She leans close.
He opens his mouth, and a large, fat, hairy spider begins. First, you see it ballooning his throat, and then you see it crawling up and out, and is transferring it to your mouth.
She tries to pull away. I don't know if she's successful. She's had second thoughts, but
And he says, "No, no, no," as the spider sort of is now crawling on his face. He says, "No, no, 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 no. There's nothing to worry about. They're very kind."
I don't know. What do you intend to do? I'm not going to swallow that creature.
Then perhaps just let it ride with you under your shirt, perhaps.
she nods, seeming really suddenly relieved. She thought it was going to have to be inside her, and
oh, thank God.
He says, there, no worries. You'll discover that this creature is very ancient and very old and very wise. It has learned much of the world, and you have only to make the decision to receive its wisdom, to have its wisdom inside of you, and you will.
she pulls back and kind of walks away in horror as she kind of feels the thing kind of crawling on her. But she doesn't bat it away. She kind of looks over towards the heron and grits her teeth.
You will all be together at this point. And here, Vero, I'd like to have the scene with the false sign, if you will. And remind us, are you getting away with this or not?
Yes, I'm getting away with it. I rolled a 1 on my reduction roll there.
Very good. Yeah, we'll still spin a tail.
Yeah. Note, I also have trickery as a skill. I found you again. I found you. I thought I'd lost you in the smoke and the mist and those infernal rice paddies. Look what I found in there. And at this point, he holds up a kind of like much thicker than you would expect, like stalk. It almost looks like bamboo. And in the middle of it is this like gall. So it's pretty big. It's like the size, it's maybe like bigger than a golf ball. It's mostly round, but it's mostly round, but it's kind of oblong, and it's got two depressions in it that almost makes it look almost like a skull. But it's green. It's part of the stalk. It said, "I found this omen in the rice paddies. This is a sign. This is a sign that we are truly going to. This is a sign that we are truly going to be successful here. Now, the way this has to work, there's a bit of a ritual that we'll need to do, and two of you would need to go ahead on either side as we approach. Once we get to the manor house, so the two of you would need to go ahead. I would be in back to enable to protect you with my magic. And in that way, this omen is telling us that if we take that pincer approach, we will truly be successful. For that is what the skull means. You two will be the eyes of the skull. I'll be the mouth.
Well,
I think Saray, she clearly buys into this, and she looks at the omen and the skull shape, and she kind of feels her hairy-legged friend crawling on her back, and she thinks about swallowing it to see if she can see past any kind of deceptions here, but she trusts Vero, and she hasn't been betrayed by him yet. So she still has faith in some members of the party, at least.
I feel like at this point, I probably could trust Vero much more than Sarah after I witnessed that betrayal. So I will.
yeah, because it sounded like Saray cast a spell, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Saray, yeah. So I'm going to follow along with Vero's plan, hesitantly and cautiously, but.
So you're moving forward, Vero staying in the rear, well placed to see what dangers happen first, right? You were on a road. Before you get to the manor house, there's a road you both have to go down first. It's largely eroded, but it leads up to the manor house. And on either side of the road, flanking it, are these withered willow trees stripped to the bark. And the trunk of each tree has been charred by flames, and almost every other tree has a corpse tied or nailed to it. And like that footman's corpse from earlier, these bodies have all been gnawed upon. Unlike the footman, though, these corpses appeared to have been flayed first, and their teeth and hair have been carefully removed. I would like for the two of you to please roll Ruin. Seems like everyone's good. And I am curious, though. I want to check in with you, Saray. What do you think of this sort of abattoir, this Grand Guignol scene set on either side of the road?
I think she kind of feels a rumble in her stomach as she passes by some of the bodies that are against the trees. And she would wander precariously close, trying not to be obvious, just for a bite, just for a nibble. maybe take another piece of flesh for the road, as it were.
While the group is moving ahead, Vero, you've been chewing on your thumb inadvertently. Your thumb is bleeding, but you're not aware of it. But it's drip, 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 dripping blood. Then you feel the distinct sensation of something tonguing the blood. Something licking your thumb as your hand rests at your side.
Do I see anything, or I just have
Yes.
this? Oh,
One of the nobles has crawled this whole way, and he's licking the blood from your thumb, and he says, I didn't want it to go to waste. Your precious fluids spilling out onto the hot earth.
Vero like shouts in alarm. I'm going to say Vero drags his dagger and stabs this guy.
Ema, the whispering is getting louder. You can actually make out some words. If only you would move the fleshy mound close to your ear.
I do not. I try to ignore it. I don't want to think too hard about it, and I don't want to hear, because I feel like the voice is familiar.
It is.
And
It'll eventually be like when you can hear your heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Kind of behind your ear. It'll sound, you'll just hear the words, part of you now. Part of you now.
I'm like, no, stop, no. And I'm considering stabbing it with my porcupine quill, but I'm just trying to hide it for right now.
Saray, tell me of Lord Hafir. Is Lord Hafir a greedy man? Did he hoard his riches at the expense of others?
He
Or
was
does he?
actually a very well-beloved ruler and very wise, and she looked up to him. And she had taken her time to court him and kind of set herself apart from the other courtesans. And as she kind of rose in, favor with him, she kind of revealed to him her powers as an oracle. And it was going her way. And unfortunately, some of her visions were not true. And he rejected her. And what she thought was love was actually practicality. And now she's been spurned from the court and finds herself forced, for seeking retribution.
Good. A keening wail can be overheard by all of you as a lone vulture circles the area around the manor house. There is a sizzling, popping sound, followed by the smell of burnt flesh and hair on the air. And in the distance, somewhere deep within the manor house, pained screams of animals, possibly, maybe humans. They get a little muddled. Pained screams being dragged, or pained screams as the creatures are being dragged to the butcher's block. The manor house is very much alive. and it awaits you. But for now, so passes ring 2. And we shall end the session here as well. Let's do stars and wishes. That's our debrief. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session. Scenes, bits of role play, something your fellow players did, something I did, something about the incursion. Anything you want, as many things as you want. Wishes are things that you hope to see in the story next time, something you'd like to follow up on or something you hope happens. Think about it for a moment, and whoever wants to speak first, please do.
I loved the grunginess of Nima's character. That was awesome. So yeah, definitely a star for me.
I'm always a big fan of the kind of tone that you bring a session, Jason. So I always enjoy that.
I'd say a star for everyone, really, but really initially, James and Jay kind of like really diving in on the like gruesomeness of what's going on. Star to James for like leaning directly into the condition at the moment when you could do it. That was really terrific. Yeah. I loved the scene between, it was very brief, but I loved the scene between Vero and the noblewoman. I thought that was great. And yeah, I like that we got into the treachery so fast, mostly because Jay started with such a high ruin. So, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I might have some other stars, but those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna star to you, Jason. This was I've listened to a number of your other games, and I know you know how to do horror and just gross really, really well, and this is really, really fun.
Thank you.
I love that we were kind of like, really, really wallowing in the horror here. And yeah, that initial scene when we first met those noblemen, that was a great scene. Just
yeah,
ugh.
Yeah, I love the nobles. I also love that I have a furry-legged friend. That's amazing.
Yeah. It just has this great kind of grimy cinematic tone. Like, I mean, it's like
it's like 70s exploitation horror.
I was just gonna say this is like, I mean, this is like The Hills Have Eyes or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
like the original ones.
Exploitation horror, like grindhouse exploitation is really, really good. Yeah, it reads that way as well. By the way, it's really.
I was thinking El Topo or something like that.
yeah.
Jay, I just love how I just loved how like feral and dangerous you made Nima, like right from the get-go.
Yeah.
That was great. And James, I mean, when you switch into first person to Saray, it's just fantastic. You're doing a great job with that. I'm just really getting a feel of, this is a character that is, perhaps has realized she's gotten in way over her head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked how very distinctly sketched every character was. Like James, I really enjoy like your voice that you're using is very effective. And Vero, like my first impression of Vero is like this character stepped out of a Jack Vance novel.
I was about to say, I was like, Vero has like a really high fantasy vibe. And it was interesting because what I think is, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jay, but like what I think is so interesting tonally about this session was we have this sort of like almost, in some places, there's this interesting juxtaposition between the characters and their backgrounds and the setting, like Vero being kind of like initially at least like this like kind of lighter character, although I love to see that stabbing the nobleman. That was great because it kind of presages a switch, right? And then and sort of like Saray's background as a courtesan, right? Like here in the now you're in the shit, so like that was just, I don't know, I kind of really loved all that. Sorry, Jake, keep going. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Yeah, I mean, it does have like a fantasy trope, but like what specifically why I say about like Jack Vance, because I'm going back and reading those novels, is how horrible all those characters are. Like, and so it fits perfectly with this setting. Like, yeah, because all Jack Vance magicians are awful people.
Yep. And that's kind of what I'm going for. I mean, this, like when I said, and I'm lighting, I've got this big, beautiful illustrated holy book, and I'm ripping pages out, and that's what I'm using to start the fire with.
Oh yeah, that was start for that. That was a great little, I love that little moment. I was like, that was good. Star for how you all answered my initial questions. That's an old GM trick of mine, the little journey questions, and I always do that as a way of like seeding ideas and a way of getting you to start thinking about your characters a little bit, and I thought you all did a really good job, like with your answers. It gave me stuff I was able to really like grab onto and kind of do something with as the GM, so I appreciated that. Mm-hmm. Any other stars, or somebody want to do wishes now?
I'm kind of salivating to do a risk roll, but I realize that that's probably not a good thing.
I probably call for them a lot less than other GMs do.
Yeah.
I'm more of a like there might only be like 5 or 6 the whole incursion, right? Just because that's the pace I like to go at. But we'll get you one. Don't worry.
I GM Trophy Dark a fair amount, and I definitely embrace the risk roll, and I think I embrace the ruin roll less than Jason does.
I go for the ruin roll a lot. Well, this incursion is like it's a ruin roll every paragraph. Like there's no getting away from it. Like there's no buildup. Like the ring one, there's like fucking nobles eating a pig, raw. Like I mean, it's like it's erotic. I mean, like that's straight away. So, which is good. It kind of says its point of view right away, and like you're in it, But I do like the ruin roll, and I like the.
I gotta say, I really like the new ruin roll. I haven't played a lot of Dark recently since the new ruin roll came out, and
What do you mean the reduction roll?
I'm sorry, the reduction roll, the new reduction roll. Yeah.
It's much better. Yeah, it's improved.
It's much better.
Yeah.
What was it before? Can I ask what it was before? It was
before, if you rolled equal to or higher, literally nothing happened. Your ruin didn't go down and nothing happened. It was just totally like a flat, boring result. And so this way, your ruin always goes down, and what's at stake is whether you get spotted or not. It just makes for a better story.
Yeah, so I like that. I do like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw some. I'm going to say for wishes. I think what I want to see next. What I'd like to see next time is yet more interactions between the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in Ring 2 when you get separated, the characters are off doing their own thing, and I want to see more. I want to see us bounce off each other a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
On top of that, just my wish is kind of a satisfactory conclusion to this almost PvP betrayal that's happened almost immediately.
Oh, immediately! There's been no camaraderie. It's been like, fuck all of you.
I want my money.
I mean, that dick move that Nina did, like disrupting the party, when it just caused the whole thing to be chaos. That was really great. I mean, it was very I could already tell. I was like, okay, well, this is gonna be these guys were done for. There's no they're not coming back from this. So it was good.
I was gonna say I just see this ending in a bunch of I see this ending in us doing one big contest roll and then just narrating.
That was my wish. My wish is I hope we get a good contest roll. The contest roll is super fun, and I hope we get to do it at the end of the at least definitely by the end of the session. I think we'll be able to, but I hope we get to see it at least once. That's, and I guess my other wish, and then I'll stop talking, is I want to learn a little bit more. Actually, no, I know exactly what I want. I want that the Lord Hafir's letter on the mantle, Chekhov's letter. I want that to come back into play in the story. I want to know what that is. So pending that. Any other stars or wishes?
Yeah, I almost feel like maybe there's almost a trust that shouldn't be there now between Saray and Vero. Like she's kind of leaning into that. Like she sees the animosity towards Nima, and now it's like maybe that relationship kind of explore that too. But probably goes horribly wrong for her.
Yeah, I'm thinking of those. I mean, since we've mentioned the like the 70s kind of grindhouse movies, or
Mhm.
like those spaghetti westerns. I don't know if you can still say that. I mean, those old
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
movies, and just how they desperately still cling to each other just so they can get what they want. And so
Mhm.
there is no bonding in sort of way.
That's going to be the interesting thing,
Yeah.
because this incursion is probably, it's Ring 4 is super dangerous. And so like, I'll be curious to see if that pulls you all together. Like if you actually kind
Mhm.
of out of necessity, like have to kind of come back together. I think that'll be interesting.
I know who
Yeah,
the ugly is.
I was just going to say the Mexican standoff at the finale of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah.
Fabulous. Any other stars or wishes before we go? Okie doke. In
was
that
great.
case,
Yeah.
it was fabulous.
This
was
is
great fun.
super fun. This was
Good.
super
I'm
fun.
glad you
Have
enjoyed
a
it.
good time.
I will see you all next week. I'm going to stop the recording.